Kate Montana, thank you so much for doing this. I've been smiling all morning. I'm so looking forward to this. You
You know,
remind
that's the
me,
thing about that's the good thing about doing podcasts. You get to talk to interesting people
yes,
about things that you're passionate about.
absolutely. I love your energy. I love your sense of humor. You just get it.
God Almighty, if we can't laugh during some of
Yes.
this, we're screwed.
So, Kate, for those who don't know who you have a fascinating life. Like just fascinating. It really is. Prior to COVID, I would love if you could talk about some of the things that you've done. I mean, you've done
Jeez.
like everything I want to do. I've done a lot of traveling, but you raised and trained horses. You've done plant medicine in the Amazon jungle with
I
shamans
I worked in
on
network
network
sports
television.
television for God knows how long. Yeah, yeah. Got a few. Well, I don't have very many gray hairs, but anyway, yeah.
I mean, yeah, yeah. What a cool life. Tell us
Well,
about.
the big thing happened when I turned 30, which was and I won't say what date that was. But up until that point I'd done everything that I was supposed to do. I'd
Yeah.
followed the social construct. I got a good grades in school. I went to a good college. I didn't do too many drugs. I kept my nose pretty clean and got a good career and then married a great husband and yada yada, had a dog and foreign cars in the garage and a 401k brewing, and it was just like, and I was miserable.
Mm.
And I'd done everything right. And I
Yeah.
was like, at that point I was like, well, shit. What haven't I done? And the only thing I hadn't done was have any sort of spiritual pursuit or look inside myself. It had all been an external material girl, yay Madonna kind of orientation because nobody was ever around to tell me any different. And the I was raised in the Episcopal, Christian church, and there was nothing there that was enticing that taught me anything about myself except that I was a piece of poo and that I was, unworthy to gather up the crumbs from underneath the Lord's table, which really set my teeth on edge. Even as a little
Mm.
kid, I was like, I looked around at all the adults nodding their heads in church, and I just felt kind of sick, like I don't feel terrible about myself. I like life, so religion never had done it for me. So that was the start of the internal journey of, well, okay, what else is there? And then that led to many decades and God knows how many, yeah, actually I've counted it up, probably around 30,000 hours of meditation later.
Wow.
Um, that's when COVID landed. And I'm out writing books for Simon and Schuster on enlightenment because I had an enormous, I can't say I had an enlightenment experience because that's a misnomer. Um, Enlightenment isn't an experience. An experience predicates that there's an I having the experience.
Hmm.
And the experience was there was no I. So there was nobody around having an experience. There was just, I am life. And it truly was liberating. And that lasted for 3 days. And then I started reweaving the thoughts that a human being, a Kate Montana, who, I was born this and I had this husband and these lovers and this career and all that identity stuff and all the thoughts of Kate that had made it abundantly clear. I mean, it was ludicrous. Now I know why all the statues of Buddha have him. What a joke to think that I, Kate, can become enlightened when the truth is enlightenment is no Kate whatsoever, and there's just the freedom of source, if you will, the consciousness of the divine. And that took me 14 years to recover from because coming back into Kate Montana world was like going from being the universe and then slowly getting, well, actually rather quickly, getting slammed into a dark closet with the door shut
Mm.
and key thrown away. And I was like, well, why the hell did that happen? And how do I get back there? Knowing full well that I couldn't get back there because that's me, Kate, doing something to get someplace else when the truth of the matter is just I am what I am. There is no becoming. How can I become what I really am? There's just a matter of, well, whatever it's going to take. Eventually, maybe the illusion of this world and my humanity and all the rules and regs and all the have-tos and the look goods and the rat race and the money and the all of that stuff that is what constitutes the mind of Cate and her identity. No, sooner or later that'll just maybe wear down. And
Mm.
then COVID happened.
Mm.
And
Then COVID
that
happened.
didn't wear stuff down. That just obliterated everything. And so I'm sitting there, I'd written a book called The E Word, Ego, Enlightenment, and Other Essentials for Simon and Schuster. That was way back in 2017. And that's when it came out. And, so I was at the point of, strutting my stuff on stage, talking about enlightenment and ego and all of that, thinking I knew a whole bunch. And I started to wake up before that. I realized, no, I've got too much ego invested in this book and doing that. And then COVID. And then COVID was like, oh, I haven't known what's been going on at all. And so I started research. I looked at the world gone mad
Mhm. Mhm.
and lockdowns and mandates and the insanity of it. And for the first time, I literally turned around and went, "This is ugly. This is
Yeah.
evil. This is pure evil." And so I started researching evil, which is, God, Allie, I'd been in a positivity bubble of spirituality for 40 years. And so it was humbling to say the least, shocking to say the least, and pretty much about the last thing on God's green earth I ever thought that I would even be interested in thinking about, let alone researching, let alone writing a book about. And what I discovered was like, wow, every culture on this planet for, no, I could only track it back about 8,000 years, but every culture on every continent in this world understands what some call and label evil. The Christian church labels it evil, which I've discovered that that's actually an erroneous it's an erroneous orientation towards what I discovered is an interdimensional, non-physical intelligence that has been interfering with humanity for, I don't know, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years. And that every culture that I researched knew about. I mean, the Native Americans, like the Iroquois, call it Wendigo, and other Native American nations call it Wetiko or Abadan, which is Islam, or Iblis, or the Hawaiian kahunas refer to this interference, these entities, these invisible beings, as the Epa.
Mm.
Um, Carl Jung actually wrote about it and basically labeled it the influence of the Antichrist consciousness itself. Sri Aurobindo, all these spiritual masters, so many people have written about this. And of course, Christianity presents it as Beelzebub or Satan or the devil. And so I looked at this, Allie, and I was like, well, okay, we've known about this presence like for frickin' ever. Everybody knows about it. Everybody has talked about it for thousands of years. Why don't we know about it?
Yeah.
So that was the start of the real rabbit hole. Why is this illusion campaign being, this matrix being inflicted upon us? And it's the best I can understand is that this interdimensional influence is kind of binary.
Mm.
It is not a life form like we know life. It is very two-dimensional. It is very, for lack of a better word, left brain. It's a very factoid. It's almost like AI, quite frankly. And actually, there's deep seed of questioning in me at this point about the chicken and the egg, which came first, AI or the archons, and are they the same
Absolutely.
in different evolutionary form?
Uh-huh.
Which is a rat's nest to go down. I won't go there right now, but they literally want what we have, which is the life spark, and they want embodiment. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you look at the embodiment that we have and the life spark that we are, it's really a frequency of love, whatever the hell love is, and that's a whole other conversation. And it's far transcends romance and chocolate and hearts and oh, I have to be nice all the time. Tell that to a volcano, which is an expression, a fierce expression of love and life. So, but they want what they don't have. But the only way that this takeover can happen is that we're up here at this vibrational level and they're like sub-basement level. They're way down here. So they can never come up to this. So the only other option is for it to bring us down to this so that we slow our vibrational frequency. We go from outrageous creator gods, divine beings, of love, pure love, to worthless, shame filled, frightened, physical, limited creatures. If everybody knows about this, why does nobody know about this?
Yes.
And that is exactly the point, Allie, is that the amount of programming. Okay, if we're looking at an interdimensional, binary, highly intellectual, and I'm actually also at the point where I feel that I don't think the mental body, the binary mind actually is innate to humanity.
Mm.
I don't know how many, perhaps millions of years we need to go back to being something other, but we certainly didn't have logical left brain function at some point in our development. We were these awesome beings that could, we were one with life, and there was just, we could move between dimensions and timelines, and there was no time. And so we're these amazing spirit beings having this experience, but this isn't even physical, this is energy. Okay, so it's all one, this beautiful, beautiful, pure light energy of light and love. So yeah, at one point, I think that actually the mental was a field that was impressed into us that we adopted and then slowly got lost in. That's another
Yeah.
matrix of the mind. But so the reason we don't really see this is because of all of that manipulation. Um, so there's so many ways that we diminish this presence and make it which makes it invisible. So the programming around this, and it fascinated me, Ali, is that I could look at all these, these horror movies about possession. I mean, dear God, was it Linda Blair back in God knows the 70s or something when she did The Exorcist? As
Yes.
people look at that and go, and yet all of that information is still out there. And so it's credible and it's visible and then it's invisible because
Mhm.
no, now we've advanced far beyond that kind of shamanistic, superstitious, tribal, lower life form, less cognizant, less intellectual, less intelligent presence.
Mm.
So, eh, eh, I can dismiss it all.
Right.
I cannot tell you how many friends I've lost over this. People who are like, "Are you out of your mind, Cate?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, I've come into my mind. I think things are actually coming clear now that I have this
Yes.
other side of the picture to explain the continued devolution
Mm.
of civilization and
Yes.
humanity. It's like we're at this place of such enormous scientific advancement and intelligence and all of this, and yet society is just going, why? Why is this happening? Despite our best intentions, despite Buddha coming 2,500 years ago and that understanding, and Christ 2,000 years ago, that we are beings of love. It's just like, despite all of these influences, we're still going this way.
Mm.
And so that's why I ended up writing Cracking the Matrix, is because I was like, okay, this has got to become visible. This has got to
Yeah.
become an open conversation. And it's, what it was really sad is that I get not a whole pile of letters, but I do get consistent letters from people from around the world who write and go, "Oh my God, thank you for writing about this. Oh
Yes.
my God, I have been attacked astrally. I've been attacked by these demons for
Mhm.
ever since I was a kid. Oh my God, I've had this experience, and my brother or my sister or my husband or my wife." And there's so little resources for people. So actually, one of the things that I'm about to embark on is starting to set up a website for global resources for people who, like, for example, I've got a psychologist friend of mine who, when she read Cracking the Matrix, and then we sat down and had a talk about it, and she said, she said, I wouldn't ever put this on my website. She said, but I deal with possession all the time.
Mm.
100% of my clients are dealing with interdimensional interference, driving them into very limited self-destructive patterns.
Wow.
She says, I don't call it that with the
Mhm.
majority because the majority can't handle it because, again,
Yeah.
we've been trained to poo-poo, oh, that, either that or I'm Linda Blair and I'm going to lose it and have to be locked up. So there's such fear. Fear is the other huge tool that keeps this invisible and under the rug because I don't want to look at that.
Yep.
Fuck. Excuse my French.
No.
I'd rather, let me meditate. Let me read another bliss book. Let me talk about manifesting money, anything. I don't want to look at that.
It's so true.
So that's how this keeps under the radar. There's
Yeah.
so different ways this happens. One of the major points that I have learned is that um, there's a lot of, and I've seen this in the spiritual arena, especially. Well, no, I've seen it in the Christian arena as well. There's this rising, we're doing battle with the forces of evil now, and it's the light versus the dark, and it's the time of Armageddon, and the days to come are here, and all of that. More fear mongering. But if there's anything I've learned, Allie, is that to do battle is to buy into this frequency down here. The good fight is to be way down here doing this against, trying to gain supremacy over power. It's all power over. But I'm on the side of the light. No, you're not, actually. You
Mm.
think you are. That's part of the deception. Because if that influence can keep us at a low frequency fight frequency, they
Yes.
got it.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's endless. It doesn't end ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so people say, well, then what do I do to, I'm afraid of this influence, and what do I do to protect myself? And so, and the only, the thing that gets me, and when I really got this, it was like, oh, these invisible, non-physical beings don't have the power to pick up a tissue paper. That's why they need to infiltrate and come into us and have human possessed minions, if you will, to do their dirty work on the. They're the ones, they need somebody to construct the 5 and 6G and the nanoparticles and the technology to, for further enslavement and to drag, our frequencies down. So there are handmaidens who have been literally taken over. So this is probably a good point to give the point about how original sin, the whole start on the whole original sin. Should I go there?
Yeah, please.
This is a perfect example of programming and how this insidious mindset is delivered to us and then we buy into it. And it's a mindset that again degrades our own light. And that's the purpose of it. So everybody's familiar with the concept of original sin as if you were born into the body bad, God good. The physical material, you're a wretch, you're a lowly worm creature down here. Ugh, yeah. So we want to get out of the body. That's the new age spirituality. It's all about close your eyes. Don't want to have to deal with any of this because this is not it. And get out there to God. So body bad, God good. So so original sin was the construct of St. Augustine back in 300 AD, something like that. But when I researched it, it was like, well, okay, where did St. Augustine get this whole idea of original sin? Well, turns out St. Augustine was a bad boy. His dad was a pagan, his mom was a Christian. He was a drunkard and a sex addict. And he ran across at one point the teachings of a man by the name of the Prophet of Mani, M-A-N-I, who had lived about 100 years before St. Augustine. And the teachings of Mani were about this, the corruptness of the flesh, the sins of the flesh, and that any man or woman born of the flesh is born into sin naturally, and that the whole course of one's life was to scourge the body, ignore the body, and elevate yourself to the divine. And when St. Augustine ran across this teaching, he was like, oh, that's why I've been a bad boy. I was born in a body. It wasn't my fault. Oh my God, I was sinful because I am in a sinful vehicle. All I have to do is purge myself from this wretched vehicle and disassociate myself and focus on God, and all will be well. So then he was what do you call it? Born again, if you will, into this whole idea. He became a huge Christian influence in the church, and he's the one who brought Mani's teaching, the prophet of Babylon, into the Christian church. And now we have original sin, and what, 250 generations later? Yeah, 200 generations later, shame is one of the lowest frequencies we can vibrate at. So we've had 200 years, 200 generations
Mm.
of epigenetic DNA influence passed down, passed down, passed down to us. We wonder why we have self-esteem issues.
Right.
200 generations of this sexual shame, body shame, I'm a person shame passed down to us epigenetically, scientifically. We know this happens now. I'm like, and I've looked at original sin. I don't think there is a more destructive teaching that has ever been introduced to humanity than original sin. So now the question becomes, well, where did Mani of Babylon get the idea? Well, it turns out Mani heard a voice. He had this little being that talked to him, and he called it his other self. And his other self told him all about how wicked he was and how bad the body and corrupt the body and evil the body was. And that's where the idea of original sin came from, was some disincarnate voice. Now, Augustine, Mani never said that was an angel. Augustine came in and went, that must have been an angel. Had to be a messenger of God delivering that message of truth. So see how this is introduced, how we adopt it, then we embody it, and then we express it. I'd just like to reiterate again, this interdimensional influence doesn't have this power. We have the power. So, for the people, because there's so much fear around this subject.
Mm.
So the most important thing is to realize that it has no power whatsoever, except we give it to it through our fear, number one. So it's really important to stop and start reflecting on your life and like, well, where am I giving my power away? Is it to media? Is it to my government? Is it to my local student council? Is it to my fashion sense? Is it to my body issues? Where am I giving my power away? And where am I the most frightened? And why am I so frightened? And so, stopping to reflect instead of just keeping on the gas pedal pressed to the floor, take time to start looking at our own issues. And if there's anything, Allie, that is the antidote to this down here, it's nature. If you can sit your butt down on the ground for 10, 15 minutes a day under a tree and just be with the earth, that is one of the most cleansing, detoxifying, calming, uplifting
Mm.
frequencies we can. I mean, what is the Japanese have brought in the practice of forest bathing. The studies, the clinical studies that have been done on just getting kids, autistic kids out into the woods is or ADHD, and it just diminishes
Mm.
PTSD veteran, veterans suffering from PTSD. They get them out in the woods and their symptoms decline by 60, 70%.
You lived in the wilderness,
Oh,
in the
yeah.
cabins, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, so you can even speak on this, and I mean, we all know, we even if we just go out for a walk, we can feel it. We know what it does, but I mean,
Absolutely.
you took it to another level.
Yeah, well, that's being a Leo, I think. But
I love
yeah,
that.
when at age 30, when I walked away from my husband and from television career, and all the stress. And I only knew one thing, Ellie, and it was like, I need to be in nature. I was raised on a farm doing
Mm,
the whole horse thing. And so, I've always been a nature girl, but, I woke up at 30 and went, wow, I am so far from where I need to be. And so I rented this. I love it. I rented this one room stone cabin in the mountains of North Georgia on 100 acres. The little cabin was right on a waterfall in this river running through this valley, and I rented it. No indoor plumbing, no electricity, um, $25 a month rent,
wow.
which was a good thing because had no longer any income because I was coasting on a little bit of savings. And it's so funny. Well, actually, this is a good story. So I'm coming down off the
Yeah.
network TV live, Howard Cosell and live TV and all this stuff and doing the Olympics and yada, yada, yada. And 6 months into this, oh my God, and then to meditate, I didn't do any lessons. I just figured, well, meditation is looking within and asking the question, who am I? That makes sense. So that's what I did. I wasn't trained in any meditation. And so, and it was a crazy house in here. It was very distressing to tune in, to stop, and then tune into this. It was like, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like Munch's the scream. Um, anyway, so six months into this gig, I'm sitting there by the river, and I'm realizing I am so exhausted. I am so tired, and I start talking to some of my friends back in Atlanta who are still in the rat race, and they said,
Mm.
"God, from your symptoms, sounds like you've got chronic fatigue syndrome." And I'm like, "God, I think I do. I need to go to the doctor." So anyway. I was at the point of making a doctor's appointment. And one morning after a crazy house meditation time, it suddenly hit me. I don't have chronic fatigue. I'm relaxed. I had no
Wow.
I had no idea what relaxation felt like.
That's interesting. Wow.
I thought I was sick.
Yeah. Wow. I've talked to my mentor about this, and she it's happened to both of us where you're out of your body for so long, and then when you start to do inner work, when you start to wake up to some things, you and you start to get comfortable being in your body, you really pick up on what's what. And a lot of the times it can be confusing at the beginning. You can think something else is going on when
Absolutely.
your new
Absolutely.
normal now feels weird, so you're looking for like answers, and it's like, I gotta be sick. I gotta.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, I hear you, Kate. I really do. Mm,
And that was 40 years ago. Okay. Things have speeded up considerably since the 80s.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my God, what we're all dealing with now? It's insanity. It is
it
nothing other
really
than
is.
insanity.
Hmm.
And the other part of the insanity is that we're catching on that it is and how insane this is. We're finally catching on to it.
Yeah, how long we've allowed and how deep we've gone. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this is the part of the disinformation campaign to keep us from being who we really
Yes.
are, to keep us from connecting with our inner light, to keep
Hmm.
us from connecting with our bodies. Now, here's the other shocker that really has only hit me in the last since I started this in 2020 was to realize that after 40 years of focusing on getting out of my body, that it's all about out there and out there to God and my higher self and my elevated enlightened self or whatever. to finally realize that the whole gig was about getting in my body
Yeah,
because my body never lies. This'll fuck me up endlessly,
that's
but
right.
this never lies.
Mm,
And this is God as well, because
yes,
it's not, again,
yes.
it's not even physical for heaven's sakes. There's no little teeny tiny particle of physicality at the bottom of the quantum field waiting for us to find. It's all energy fields.
Yeah.
So this is my power spot. Again, the training, the programming is out of the body, out of the body. Don't look, it's scary. Out of the body, out of the body. Run, 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 run. Make money, make money. It's all distraction.
Oh, mm,
All distraction to keep us from coming into who we really are, to keep us from coming into our bodies, our safe place.
mm,
To recognize this as my safe place is like head
yes.
exploding. This is where my power lies. Oh shit, I have to revamp everything I've ever thought and believed. Yeah, I mean it's so, for decades, Allie, I wanted to be, I wanted a different life. I wanted to ascend. I wanted in life, it's like, yes, I want the new world. And and it was like, and I thought it was all about God and bliss and always being happy and always being nice and all of that stuff. And boy, am I in a new world, but
Yeah.
it sure as hell isn't the world that I thought I was going to have to get in. I had I had no idea what the world I was already in actually contained. Clueless. So to wake up to a world of manipulation, of interdimensional interference, where we're being screwed with by a whole intelligence that's alien. And it's just like, oh God. And then I got to wade through this. And then there's the World Economic Forum. And then there's nanotechnology. And then da, 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 da. It's just like, oh my God, I just want to be happy.
Yes. Yes.
I just want to raise my kids to be happy.
Mm,
I
that
just
is
want
good.
cats to be healthy. I want to be healthy.
Yeah.
Simple, simple stuff. And everywhere this whole again, a like original sin concretizes the whole shame field in us, which lowers our light. But we have been trained so assiduously to see ourselves as these violent, um, crude, cruel, um, hapless beings that are totally untrustworthy. And I've had to revamp my whole understanding about what humanity really is.
Mm,
Everywhere I've ever traveled, and God knows I've traveled all over the world and spent a lot of time in third world countries. And people are nice. People take care of you when you're lost and they've never met you in a million years and your skin
yeah.
color is different and your religion is different. They don't care. It's like, wow, do you need something? I'll help you. It's the exact antithesis of the programming.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So there's this huge deconditioning. When I saw when all this unveiling started with COVID, I had to go back to, that's why I named it Cracking the Matrix, is because I had to go back to Neo and Morpheus
Yes.
and the Matrix back way 1999, and I was like, this is way more real than anybody has a freaking clue, because these beings, they actually do harvest our energy.
Yeah.
It's called loosh. And where do you get loosh? Well, you can harvest this energy, emotional energy, from, happiness and love, but mostly the best stuff comes from shame, fear, and guilt. So it's like the machines harvesting fields for their, to run their batteries. It's the exact same thing. And something else that just blew my mind when I ran across it, and I'm gonna pitch if anybody's interested, check out a woman by the name of Jacqueline Hobbs. She's from the UK and she's known as Oracle Girl. It was just one of those, ran across her, and what she had to say is like, oh my God, not a teacher, no followers, blah blah, but she just makes sense. The signal, the
Mm,
frequency she's emitting, exuding is like, ah. I heard her say at one point, and I, just one of those little asides. And oh, by the way, she's very familiar with this interdimensional influence and talks about
mhm.
it. She said, you've got to understand it comes from a completely different source. And I was like, What? What other source? I mean, I'm this monotheism, personified here. There's one source, God Almighty is the light. Never mind, like most people with any common sense whatsoever, how could torturing kittens and babies and raping babies be part of God's love? We jump through all these theological hoops and make excuses to try to cram what's impossible and disgusting into, I got to believe that it's true because there's only one God and only one source, and it's love. So everything that does not love obviously comes from love. I don't understand it, but I better take it on faith. And when I heard this woman say there, these beings, this intelligence comes from another source, it was like the light bulb went on. That makes so much
Yeah.
sense. It's a binary, very, very left brain, very roboticized, no emotion, no
Mm.
empathy, no compassion. Isn't interested in love. To be able to move to the place where, wow, these horrific things that happen, it's not about love. And oh, I have to have forgiveness for this. And it's just like, no, I don't have to have for no. Who, yeah,
Yeah.
well, if you're a spiritual being, you have to forgive everything and you have to love everything. It's just like, no, I'm not gonna love people who gang rape a baby. This is how mesmerized we've become. And pointing out that the emperor has no clothes doesn't make you a popular person.
Golly.
Yes, my mind explodes on a daily basis, Allie.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, if there's anything that it's taking the time, and this is so hard for people. But the further I go down this track, the more I realize how simple all of this is, which actually translates into, oh my God, this is incredibly hard being simple. To simplify, turn off your phone as much as possible. Get
Yeah,
out of the EM fields that are pulsing us deliberately. I am running my computer on an Ethernet cable now.
that's so smart.
It's a faster connection, and I'm not saturated with Wi-Fi.
Yes. Wow.
Hello, simple things. Um, to take the time to sit down. If you can do 15, I swear, 15 minutes a day is better than nothing.
Yes.
And go barefoot as much as possible.
Yes.
Get outside as much as possible. And ask for guidance. It'll come. The simplest, most amazing thing is willingness and a sincere desire for truth. I really, really want to know from the depth of my heart what is keeping me from being the loving being that I am and can be. What is keeping me enslaved? What is keeping me frightened? What is keeping me angry? What is keeping me away from other people? What is keeping me drinking every night? What is keeping me overeating every day? I want to know. And to God, if we could just take the guilt trip off of ourselves. If
Mm.
we could stop with the I'm gonna beat myself and I hate myself. If we could, oh God, if we could just be a little bit kinder to ourselves and just back off the whip a bit and go, I'm gonna take a breath for myself here. I'm gonna take that 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And I'm just gonna ask myself, I'm one with everything. I'm pure spirit. And so I'm going to ask, but if it feels more comfortable to ask God. If it feels more comfortable to ask Jesus or Buddha or whatever. There ain't no rules, which is another hard one to swallow because when we have been completely taken out of self-trust, which is the whole point.
Mm.
If we can doubt ourselves, doubt that inner voice, doubt yourself. That's the message. So that you're always looking for external authority. Oh my God, please, President Trump, President Biden, Elon Musk, please, please save me. I can't trust myself. That's the hardest thing. And
Yeah.
and then to discern, well, how do I know that, the messages that are coming to me are the real deal that I can trust? And that is a matter of practice.
Yes. Yeah.
But, there's not a human being on this planet unless they've been completely taken over by interdimensional forces. And there are some of those on this planet. Um, there's not one of us that hasn't had that hit on the way home from work. I think I'm going to drive over this way this time. And then something reveals itself that you've always wanted or that you needed or whatever. Or you meet somebody and you get this really good, or you meet somebody and you go, I don't want him dating my daughter. Whatever. You get the information. We get the information
Yes.
all the time. When we do take a break and we do allow ourselves a pause and we are sincere, like, I really want to navigate this world better. I really want to feel safe. I want to be happy. When we sincerely ask for the things to show up in our lives to bring us to that place, it will happen because that's the law. And it is a practice
Mm.
learning to discern the voice of our own spirit that we have been divorced from deliberately for so long. It's an introductory process, and it can be short, it can be long, whatever. It's all individual. Those are my big ones, Allie. The big
Yeah.
go-to is stop, take time, get out in nature, and start listening to yourself as best you can and learn to trust
Absolutely.
yourself again. And the
Yeah.
more you do that, the beautiful thing is the more we do that, the more it amplifies and it becomes like a snowball. And common sense, it's like, when COVID
Yes.
happened, okay, I've been in the spirituality, alternative health world forever. I mean, I'm an alternative health journalist, for God's sakes. And 95% of my friends lined up for the vaccine. And so many would answer, oh, I just white lighted it. And so here's going back to the spirituality bubble, the illusion that we've been fed.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna I white lighted that as they injected it, I white lighted it, and I'm fine. And I just looked at people who said that. I was like, I can't dodge a freaking hangover.
Right?
That I'm gonna change it in the vial? Please. Can we get real here?
It's so true.
So it's a humbling journey when
Yeah.
you really start digging and seriously wanting to know what's real versus whatever story we have desperately picked up in all sincerity. I mean, I don't I'm not gonna say my spiritual journey has been long and arduous and wonderful and terrifying and all of that stuff. I wouldn't have missed a minute of it. And I'm so glad that I'm where I am now. No more stories.
Yes. Yeah.
What's my gut and my heart telling me? That's life talking.
Yeah.
And life's mandate is growth, health, evolution, and joy.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of pain too, but that's also part of life. But overall, it's about growth and health and connection and coming together. And it's like, okay, that's a voice I can listen to, not somebody up on stage.
Absolutely. Yes. I love
So,
that.
yeah, so it's all about taking our own power back. And it's not power over, it's the power of life, love, God, spirit, light, the source, whatever you want to call it, moving through us, going, go that way. Don't go that way. It's right there.
Oh, Kate, I love it. I love it. I really do. This is random and totally off. Well, it is
Right.
and it isn't. But I would love to know what is going on since the fires. How is it? Is it there? I mean, I know we're told one thing on, mainstream media.
It's really hard to know because if you're not in the community,
Yeah.
I mean, I've got friends who are Hawaiian born, who lost family home back, 5 generations. There's it's really hard to navigate the FEMA and all of the governmental BS.
Mhm.
It was horrifying during and after the fires because people bringing food and supplies to people in Lahaina were turned away by the military.
Wow.
Same thing that happened in California. There were
Wow.
roadblocks everywhere that did not allow supplies from the locals to come. I'm sorry, that food that you're bringing in is not FDA approved, so we're not going to let you through. It's like,
Unbelievable.
oh yeah, it was horrifying. And they're still trying to build temporary shelter that people haven't even been able to move into. This is almost 2 years later. Temporary shelter is still in process. Temporary shelter is still being built.
Wow.
It's horrifying. And so
Wow.
the whole rumors about, well, the premier land on this island, one of the most premier spots in the entire island chain, the Lahaina area, is just like, how is that going to be remapped, rezoned, redeveloped?
Mm.
It's not going to be handed back over to the Hawaiian people, that's for damn sure.
Mm.
And you still can't, a normal citizen still can't drive through the remains. It's still
Wow.
blocked off.
Incredible.
It
Wow.
is. It's there's so much. We could talk for hours, Allie. Yeah. Yeah, don't trust media.
Yeah.
That's the other. Turn off the news.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to what you said, get off your phone, go outside. Yeah.
Grow a garden.
Yes.
Grow
Yes.
a garden. Grow your own food. The more we can unhook from the current structures that have been deliberately designed to sicken us
Mm.
and divide us, the better.
Yeah. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Cracking the majors in particular, there's something about the way you explain this that just it sinks in a different way than what I've heard other people say. You
It's
know what
big
I
picture
mean?
stuff and it's everywhere. The
Yeah.
influence is everywhere. Once you start looking for, well, why is this being presented this way? Why is the food chain this way? Why is the food distribution why are pharmaceuticals like this? Why is economics built like this? Why is politics structured like this? You see this whole pattern and it's the same pattern. It's about division and control.
Hmm.
And so it's like, oh, and yeah, the heart is the antithesis, is the antidote. The heart is the antidote. And
Yes.
coming together to be how and who we really are
Yeah.
together once again. And a whole new world is being created. A whole new world
Absolutely.
is being created. I
Yeah.
know it. And
Yes.
what Tale of Two Cities, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It's like these are shit times. Oh my God. But it's also, here's the other, I'm gonna leave it with this, hang on, and then I'll shut up. Is that love, this higher frequency, we're coming up like this, is pushing out all of the crap that isn't love.
Yes.
Everything is showing up, everything that isn't love is showing up
Yep.
because of it. So it's incredibly powerful and incredibly positive. So
Absolutely.
there you
Thank you
go.
so much.
You're
Kate, thank
welcome.
you, thank you, thank you. This was lovely. You are lovely. I just love you. I really do. I really, really
You.
do. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. And next book comes out, I'll reach out. And when I get
Yes.
this hub together for people who are dealing with this influence and want bona fide help, whether it's with, I mean, I can't tell you how many shamans I worked with down in the Amazon. Oh my God,
Yeah.
they know about these beings.
Yeah.
They've worked up with them for that. They know how to deal with it. And they're like going, well, finally you're talking about this. Jeez.
Yeah.
So, putting together an information network is going to be very important.
Awesome.
So I know I
Yes.
can reach out
Yes.
if that happens. It takes a village and we're all doing it together.
That is the truth.
We can't do it alone.
No,
Those days
absolutely
are
not.
done.
Yeah.
So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.